Brexit Minister Lord Frost says a deal could be done, although, if not, triggering Article 16 remains a legitimate option on the table. Irish Taoiseach Michael Martin said this morning that the mood music has changed, implying a deal may be getting closer. And EU negotiator Maros Sefcovic is to give a speech at 9:30 this morning, which is expected to be substantial. Could this all be resolved before Christmas? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Allison Morris from the Belfast Telegraph. Welcome to the programme. Is it the case that we are seeing some movement here? Could there genuinely be a deal, and a deal quite a bit before Christmas, unlike last year where we were waiting right up until Christmas Eve?
It's interesting because last week the kind of mood music coming from those talks was not so positive. That seems to have changed quite dramatically, I think, in the past few days. We could get some movement, and the EU have shown that they're willing to make some kind of compromise. The problem that we face in Northern Ireland is whatever compromise the EU come up with is unlikely to be enough to satisfy those elements of hardline unionism who want the protocol scrapped entirely. They want it gone. They want it replaced with something completely different. And remember, for unionism and for loyalism, the protocol is not about barriers to trade. It is an ideological thing. It is about what they see as Northern Ireland being a place apart from the rest of the UK. It is what they believe is a sort of stepping stone to United Ireland. They feel they're being pushed into an economic United Ireland, and that is what has caused the sort of recent unrest that we've seen in Northern Ireland. So it would need to be something quite significant, I think, to satisfy that wing of unionism. And it also depends on how political unionism sells any compromise back to their electorate. If they sell it, as a compromise that has been born out of the pressure that they have placed on the EU and something that they have managed to achieve and to win, it could go down well. But if they sell it as a failure, clearly that's what way it'll be perceived on the streets.
And of course, it's these two thorny issues. One of the checks on goods coming into Northern Ireland, but also of the role of the European Court of Justice, which is something that the EU seems to have been less willing to move on, something that Brexiteers have been saying is one of the thorniest and most pernicious issues because that's how the protocol is implemented. And the argument of the British government is the implementation of the protocol, rather than the words of it, is what's caused the problem here.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the issue of the European courts wasn't one that emerged in the early days of the protocol opposition and those marches and parades that we were seeing in Northern Ireland, but has become an issue of late. And that is something that is going to be much more difficult to try and untangle from the withdrawal agreement. They can change whatever the sort of mitigations are in terms of the barriers to trade that have impeded some businesses. But removing the jurisdiction of the courts is going to be something that is quite different altogether. And I don't see the EU being able to move in any dramatic way on that. Whether or not that's going to be enough, I think, for unionists, I'm not sure.
And so what do you think is the potential of Article 16 actually being triggered there? And if it is there really genuinely going to be we've seen some disquiet in Northern Ireland already. We've seen buses being set on fire. Is that the start of something much, much more grim?
We always hope. We've been through a terrible time. We're in a peace process, and we would always like to think that peace will be maintained. There has been sporadic violence, and I know that loyalist paramilitaries have been behind organising that violence. There has been indication from sources within those paramilitary groups that violence will continue if the Article 16 isn't triggered. And remember, that is the aim that hardline unionism and loyalism want. They want to put so much pressure onto political unionism, who in turn to put pressure on Lord Frost to ensure that Article 16 is triggered. The British government are going to have to show that the compromise that they have come up with is better than the alternative of triggering Article 16, which, as we know, is the nuclear option. That is something, and it will have to be replaced. So I think that we haven't actually stepped this out beyond what happens after Article 16 is triggered, because we know it has to be replaced with something. And whatever it's replaced with, those checks have to take place somewhere. Where are they going to take place? If they have to take place on the border, either on the north side or on the southern side of the border, well, then what are the sort of logistical implications and the political implications of that? And all of this, I think, is something that will come after we hear what the EU are suggesting or what they have put on the table this week. But, I'm one of those cynics. I know, like yourself, when you work in journalism and you work in this, we know that these deals are very rarely done on time. They're very rarely done ahead of schedule. This is likely to be something that we're all, sitting here, with our mulled wine, waiting on an answer to somewhere closer to Christmas.
Well, let's hope that it doesn't last as long as it did last year. I remember writing an article on Christmas Eve. Well, hopefully it's sorted out before then.